The Goldsmith's Fortune. Told by a Pathan to Major Campbell. Once upon a time, there was a goldsmith who lived in a certain village where the people were as bad and greedy and covetous as they could possibly be. However, in spite of his surroundings, he was fat and prosperous. He had only one friend whom he liked, and that was a cowherd who looked after cattle for one of the farmers in the village. Every evening, the goldsmith would walk across to the cowherd's house and say, "Come, let's go out for a walk." Now the cowherd didn't like working in the evening because he said he had been out grazing the cattle all day and was glad to sit down when night came. But the goldsmith always worried him so that the poor man had to go against his will. This at last so annoyed him that he tried to think how he could pick a quarrel with the goldsmith so that he should not beg him to work with him anymore. He asked another cowherd for advice, and he said the best thing he could do was to go across and kill the goldsmith's wife, for then the goldsmith would be sure to regard him as an enemy. So, being a foolish person, and there being no laws in that country by which a man would be certainly punished for such a crime, the cowherd one evening took a big stick and went across to the goldsmith's house when only Mrs. Goldsmith was at home, and banged her on the head so hard that she died then and there. When the goldsmith came back and found his wife dead, he said nothing, but just took her outside into the dark lane and propped her up against the wall of his house, and then went into the courtyard and waited. Presently, a rich stranger came along a lane, and seeing someone there, as he supposed, he said, "Good evening, friend, a fine night tonight." But the goldsmith's wife said nothing. The man then repeated his words louder, but still there was no reply. A third time he shouted, "Good evening, friend, are you deaf?" But the figure never replied. Then the stranger, being angry at what he thought very rude behavior, picked up a big stone and threw it at Mrs. Goldsmith, crying, "Let that teach you manners." Para, para, para. Instantly poor Mrs. Goldsmith tumbled over, and the stranger, horrified at seeing what he had done, was immediately seized by the goldsmith, who ran out screaming, "Wretch, you have killed my wife, O miserable one! We will have justice done to thee." With many protestations and reproaches, they wrangled together, the stranger entreating the goldsmith to say nothing, and he would pay him handsomely to atone for the sad accident. At last, the goldsmith quieted down and agreed to accept 1,000 gold pieces from the stranger, who immediately helped him to bury his poor wife, and then rushed off to the guest house, packed out his things, and was off by daylight, lest the goldsmith should repent and accuse him as the murderer of his wife. Now, it very soon appeared that the goldsmith had a lot of extra money, so that people began to ask questions, and finally demanded of him the reason for his sudden wealth. "Oh," said he, "my wife died, and I sold her." "For how much?" "1,000 gold pieces," replied the goldsmith. Instantly the villagers went away, and each caught hold of his own wife and throttled her. And the next day they all went off to sell their dead wives. Many a weary mile did they tramp, but got nothing but hard words or laughter or directions to the nearest cemetery from people to whom they offered dead wives for sale. At last they perceived that they had been cheated somehow by that goldsmith. So off they rushed home, seized the unhappy man, and without listening to his cries and entreaties, hurried him down to the river bank and flung him plop into the deepest, weediest, and nastiest place they could find. "That will teach him to play tricks on us," said they, "for as he can't swim, he'll drown. and we shan't have any more trouble with him.
That it won't shoot, really could not swim, and as soon as he was thrown into the deep river, he sank below the surface. So his enemies went away believing that they had seen the last of him. But in reality, he was carried down, half drowned below the next bend in the river, where he fortunately came across a snag floating in the water. A snag is a part of a tree, a bush which floats very nearly under the surface of the water. And he held on to this snag and by great good luck eventually came ashore some 2 or 3 miles down the river. At the place where he landed, he came across a fine fat cow buffalo, and immediately he jumped on her back and rode home. When the village people saw him, they ran out in surprise and said,
"Where on earth do you come from? And where did you get that buffalo?"
"Ah," said the goldsmith, "you little know what delightful adventures I have had. Why, down in that place in the river where you threw me in, I found meadows and trees and fine pastures and buffaloes and all kinds of cattle. In fact, I could hardly tear myself away. But I thought that I must really let you all know about it."
Oh, caught greedy village people. If there are buffaloes to be had for the taking, we'll go after some too. Encouraged by the goldsmith, they nearly all ran off the very next morning to the river. And in order that they might get down quickly to the beautiful place the goldsmith told them of, they tied great stones onto their feet and their necks. And one after another, they jumped into the water as fast as they could and were drowned. And whenever any one of them waved his hands about and struggled, the goldsmith would cry out,
"Look, he's beckoning the rest of you to come. He's got a fine buffalo." And others who were doubtful would jump in until not one was left. Then the cunning goldsmith went back and took all the village for himself and became very rich indeed. But do you think he was happy? Not a bit.